far you saw all the techniques which are available to understand the problem. Now, it might so happen that once you have understood the problem, you might feel overwhelmed that, oh my God, I have so many problems to solve. How do you pick up the problem which is worth solving? And that is where the define comes. You see, when you are empathizing, your empathy has to be defined, and that is what we call as a bounded empathy. Now, there are two boundary conditions of empathy. The first condition is called as technical feasibility, which means that whatever is the customer wanting from me, can I deliver it in a technically feasible manner, which means that do I have the technical and technological competence to be able to deliver it. Minus it, I should not be touching the problem. And the second thing is called as business viability, which is to say that addressing this particular problem or empathizing, does it make business sense? Because if it doesn't make business sense, I can't run a charity here. It has to make business sense. If not today, at least tomorrow it should make business sense. So, the empathy that we are talking about is not boundless empathy. It is bounded between the ambits or the guide rails of technical feasibility and business viability. And that is what we call as the concept of bounded empathy. Now that I understood that not all the problems are worth solving, the problems which I can and I should solve in terms of technical feasibility and business viability is only thing that I need to focus on, I look at the high impact problems. And how do we look at the high impact problems? You look at it by the help of the Pareto law, which is the 80-20 rule. 80-20 rule means that 80% of all the impact is caused by only 20% of the problems, which means if I solve only 20% problems, I would have 80% fitment or 80% goodness delivered to the customer. So, you sift through all the demands that the customer is wanting from you, or the customers are wanting from you, or the stakeholders are wanting from you, and you only pick up 20%, which will have the 80% impact, and the remaining you can forego, so that you are really focusing on the big ticket items. And the way you define these 20% problems which are of the 80% impact is through this very powerful technique called MICE. MICE is a term which was coined by McKinsey's Barbara Minto. And what does MICE stand for? MICE stands for mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So, suppose I have three problems. I define the three problems in a manner that each of the problems is mutually exclusive. To ensure mutual exclusivity, I have to define it in a tight fashion, but collectively it should be exhaustive, in the sense that if I solve problem 1, 2 and 3, my overall problem space should have been solved. So, three things: the bounded empathy, the 80-20 rule or the Pareto rule, and the MICE. With the help of these three techniques, you will be able to really define the problems which are worth solving, and then we get into the very, very important phase of ideation. So, understand the problem well, define it tightly and neatly, and don't sweat the small stuff, and then we get into the ideation piece. So, next up you would be looking at the video of the cafeteria and trying to understand what are the problems that we are having, and I would encourage you to identify the problems that can be solved, which are big ticket problems, and use the techniques which we have at hand. Looking forward to your recommendations. Thank you.